Hey, Agatha. Just want to make sure you can hear me. Hey, Jason. Just want to make sure my volume is on. Hey, Barbara. Everyone can hear me fine? Hey, Scapegoat. Thanks, Barbara. Alright, just needed to update my details on this live. Hey, Jenna. So it's been a month since I played this. I said hi, Jenna. Hello. Hi, Scapegoat. I did say hello to Scapegoat earlier. So how's everyone? Hey, Fart Garfunkel. Hey, Taylor Swift. Cauliflower crust lean cuisine pizza? Ew, sounds gross. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, honey bunny. Rebecca, I mean, I suppose, it has been a month since we last visited Cove. Since we last visited with Cove. New friends? No. I don't do friends. Besides, like I said, it's like there's no. We all live in different cities. It isn't really possible to talk. Hey, Anunnaki. Incubus. I mean, they don't do anything for me, because I'm not into guys. Give me a succubus any day. Or maybe don't, because they suck out your soul. Moving it. I mean, no, Rebecca. Hey, take another. Oh, shit, sorry, I totally missed you. I totally missed you there, take another, sorry. I'm sorry about that. Hey, Nancy. Yes, my bank balance is fine. Eating a brownie? Cool, cool. But okay. My bank balance healthy. I mean, it's a little light at the moment because I just spent $1,800, but, yeah, it's fine. I get paid, I think I might have gotten paid today from YouTube. Love Cove, yep. Am I surprised by what, Jenna? Child support? Struggling with your weight again? I suspect that will be a lifelong struggle for her, unfortunately. No, Rebecca, on a new laptop. I got myself a brand new laptop. A gaming-oriented rig. So it's gaming-oriented. So I'll need to set some shit up for it. Like, I'll need to spend a little more time setting things up on it and everything. But main thing is Star Trek Resurgence drops tomorrow. And that one... So that'll be playing. Why aren't I using it? Because I haven't really finished setting everything up on it. There's still some more stuff I need to do. God spent a little more time on me? Aw, oh, thanks. More than 500 YouTube? No. No, my most recent YouTube pay hasn't actually hit my bank account yet, but I think it's gonna. I think it's about $300 or $400, like $350 or something like that. 300 something odd dollars for this month. If I hit $200 for next month, I will be surprised. Like, genuinely, if I hit $200, I will be genuinely shocked. So, yeah. It has sparkles and is very cute. Yep. It is, trailer. Utility. I mean, only utility I have to pay is my cell phone. Like, internet is included at this place. Heating, water, everything's included at this place. Paid off $700 credit card balance. I am broke. Yep. I know those feelings. Hey, take another. I'm actually rich. I mean, I've got enough money to cover groceries for the next couple weeks. And to buy that Star Trek game. Would I take it alone? No. Hey, Farrell. Alright, 18 people. Been 10 minutes and I've got 18 people in here. What are we thinking? Are we expecting anyone else to come in, or probably not, eh? You make more money than like 87% of the world? Doesn't mean I'm rich. I'm not even middle class. Yeah, I'm probably making like maybe 25,000 a year. Like I suppose after taxes. After taxes, I'm probably clearing about 25,000 a year. So yeah, I make 37,000 a year before tax. After tax, yeah, probably be right around 25. Which, no, not that great. Spent too much money on weed and alcohol. Good times. Force myself to feel the crunch so I will stop doing those bad habits. Median income of the globe is less. Okay, but like, that does not mean I'm rich. Like, it's just this fucking stupid ass bullshit where it's like, well, you make more than some subsistence farmer. You make more than some villager in Somalia. Doesn't mean I'm fucking rich. Hooray, I make more money than somebody in a country that is horribly exploited. Doesn't mean I'm fucking rich. That's a nonsense thing to say. In US, I'm not. Right. In Canada, I am not rich. Yeah, the amount of money I'm making, would that qualify me as rich in some countries? Sure. Doesn't mean... But I live in Canada. Ran out of shampoo, so I just washed my hair with conditioner only and feels weird. Suppose it would. Because as I recall, conditioner is meant to, like, add oils back to the... Like, shampoo removes oils from your hair, and then conditioner is meant to add oils back. Anyway, 15 minutes, got apparently 20 viewers in here. So we may as well get back. And... Yay! Thank you for purchasing Baxter's DLC. Here you can play 5 new moments centered around Baxter. He also has a special epilogue in Step 4. To unlock it, you'll need to fulfill these conditions. All 5 Baxter's moments. No, I didn't really get to choose this, to be fond or crush with Baxter. Also include Baxter during the hang moment in Step 3. I'm guessing that is possible. Then you'll have the option to play Baxter's epilogue during step 4. You can only have one epilogue per playthrough. So I figured. I've already done the hang, so... I guess this is probably just, they probably just made some slight differences to the hang DLC, or to the hang moment. Do I know any rich people? No. Alright, so let's do sightseeing. Let's start in on the DLC. 25k is not enough to live in a third world country. Everything expensive there more than here. You have 0 choices. Depends on the country. But, yeah. So yeah, let's do sightseeing. You were perched on the couch in your living room, doing nothing in particular. Good times. It was a quintessential summer afternoon. The weather was warm and the mood was lazy. So far, it had shaped up to be a pleasant day, if somewhat uneventful. No plans and no obligations beyond a few usual chores. Liz had already flitted out, enjoying herself. She'd left in the morning carrying a mysteriously heavy bag. You hadn't bothered asking her what she was doing or why it needed a sack that clattered when it moved. She probably wouldn't be home till late. Your moms both had the day off, and like you, had been using their freedom to do nothing of import. The group of you finished cleaning up from your shared lunch, and Mom struck up a conversation.
So?
Well, what's next? Your mind was blank. You let the question hang, assuming Ma would be the one to reply, and glanced down at your phone out of habit. And right then the screen lit up, presenting you with a potential idea. A text notification had come in. Baxter's name displayed itself. He sent more messages after the first. You unlocked your phone to see it all. Hey, Vanna. And hi, Backrooms. Everyone loves a sack that clatters, yep. Hello, and good afternoon. I am intending to go sightseeing, and would love it if you could join me. You are quite welcome to invite anyone else along as well. Your phone buzzed one more time with an additional note. Sincerely, your friend, Baxter. Your mind is always blank? I wish. My mind is always rushing with utter nonsense. I love that he intended, sincerely, your friend, Baxter. What a dork. Like, am I wrong, or is that just kind of a dorky thing to throw in? You snorted at the screen. His texting style read more like a formal letter written with a quill pen than a text.
Oh?
Did your friends text you? Moss smiled at you with a raised eyebrow. Gluing your face to a phone for so long must have been a big tip-off. Starting a new job. Ooh, congratulations, Jonathan. Hope it goes well. Sightseeing to see Big Ben in Cornwall. Nice phone. Thank you, Fart Garfunkel. Baxter is inviting me to go sightseeing. Wow, perfect timing. Yes, that's nice. Baxter Ward seems like a lovely young man.
Not bad.
He's a step or two up from the Donalds, that's for sure. Neither Mom nor Ma had spent a lot of time around Baxter as far as you were aware. They'd met early in the summer, something unavoidable on this street, and had a few encounters since. I wonder where he's from. Ma didn't look to you for an answer, or her wife. She couldn't add to that topic and assumed no one else in the room knew either. It was a wonderment for the universe alone. Mom still pressed her lips together and thought. No clue. But what I'm curious about is, what is he studying in college? He's on a break from school, isn't he?
Well...
Yes, he did mention he was on an off semester, but not more than that. Once the Curiosity train left the station, there was no stopping it. The two traded questions back and forth, whispering with growing steam. There was someone on their street who was a stranger, a situation that hadn't occurred in a decade. What do you think his family is like? He's here all by himself. Again, none of you could enlighten the others. You had scarcely spent more time with Baxter than your parents, and you realized he hadn't been forthcoming with basic details. Intriguing. International man of mystery. I suppose he does sound American, so I guess probably national man of mystery? Maybe not an international, I guess national man of mystery. Baxter Ward, national man of mystery. Or do we want to change it? Do we find his mystery intriguing? Or do we want to change it? We love intriguing. Indeed. Let's not get any more information about him. We'll learn nothing more about Baxter. We'll just leave him a complete mystery, and that'll be it. Baxter's trying to get with us. He wants to be the unicorn in in my relationship with Cove. He wants to get with both me and Cove. He's like, come on, guys. Polycules are the future. Polyamory is the future. Felt weird to know so little. I don't know. It feels, that kind of feels par for the course for me. Knowing nothing. For leaving most people as a mystery? Yep. It was exciting to know there was so much more to him to figure out. You refocus on your phone and the formal message that had yet to get a reply. You answered him in a similar fashion. Gotta answer in a similar fashion. Feeling inspired by his stiff texting tone, you couldn't resist having a little fun. Good tidings, Sir Baxter. Of course I would be delighted to join you this fine day. I have finished my luncheon, so will venture forth to your dwellings. You hit send, aware that the message wasn't exactly a high society Victorian letter. It ended up more medieval fantasy scroll. But he'd probably get the joke. Polly Pocket is the future. Anyway, yeah, I dig this phone. It didn't take long at all for Baxter to continue the conversation. Brave knight, Jamie. That is heartening. I shall see you post-haste. My highest regards. Yeah, he got it. Body is sore from playing basketball yesterday. Will you massage my achy muscles? Nope. You smiled and turned to your moms. They had moved on to wondering about if Baxter had a part-time job. Probably not, both of them were concluding. See you two later. I'm going to go see Baxter now. Have fun, kiddo! Yes, do that. Ma's grin was as sweet as honey being used in a trap. You could see the ulterior motive from a mile away.
Please?
And if you happen to find out anything about our new neighbor, maybe think of telling your poor moms when you get back? This Cove? No Cove yet, Habibi. It is the right game, but we haven't seen... Cove hasn't been present yet. Despite everything, Mom appeared amused at her wife's blatant attempt at info digging. Well, I'd be interested to hear it too, if Baxter doesn't mind his mystification being cleared up. Why don't you just invite him over and interrogate him yourselves? Ma looked mock aghast at the very idea.
Goodness.
We He can't do that.
That's a shame.
He's a young man trying to enjoy his vacation. He should be out and about, not spending his limited time entertaining us old moms in our kitchen. Hey, Wiggum, it is fun. Ma slumped her shoulders while expressing her limitations in this snooping matter, though she immediately perked back up. It's different if he's making a friend his own age. If you don't want to ask, or if it doesn't come up, of course that's fine. I'm only saying that if you do, or if it does, that I'd be curious to hear about it. Hey, Baxter has interesting tastes. Maybe he's into moms. Mom choked and then laughed uproariously, while Ma frowned, not able to appreciate the humor of the insinuation. You joined in with Mom's laughter and Ma let it slide with a sigh. She did want your help after all. I won't keep you any longer. Go have a wonderful day.
See you later.
Take care. Bye. You gathered up your phone, wallet, a water bottle, and a few other odds and ends you imagined might come in handy during an unspecified outing. You left the condo, your formerly normal but boring day, rocketing off into an unknown direction. You love Mills? Who doesn't, though, right, Trailer? Moms are automatically disqualified? Baxter tended to have that kind of effect on things. Once outside, you crossed the street diagonally to reach Baxter's place. You found the doorbell and pressed it down. His doorbell was so much more reasonably placed. A second later, the man you wanted to see opened the door with a grin. From his quick response, you knew he had to have been standing by. You'd announced you'd be there, and he was ready for it.
Hello.
Hello, Jamie. Thank you for coming. Hi, nice to see you. At Baxter's obvious pleasure at your attention, you smiled in return. He stepped out of his condo and closed the door behind him to stand by you. I appreciate you agreeing so last minute. However, if you do have prior arrangements, this can be done another day. My bi-ass doesn't love MILFs, but they deserve rights. Sightseeing is my usual itinerary, after all. I didn't have any plans. Really, there was nothing to do.
Oh?
In that case, I'm glad today was the afternoon I asked. I stopped in at least one scenic spot, tried a new restaurant, or browsed an unfamiliar shop nearly every day since I've been here so far. I've always had to go on my own, so this will be a special trip. Really? I'm impressed with how proactive you've been. Thank you. I've only had a few short visits to California in my life. Even then, I was underage and supervised by parents or guardians.
Is that fine?
This summer is my first chance to truly experience what the area has for myself. It's also not going to last forever, so I'd rather not waste my opportunities. They did get a whole song about them. His bold proclamation reminded you of how fleeting his presence really was in everyone's life. Exactly as he'd suddenly appeared, it wouldn't be too much longer until he vanished back to wherever he'd come from. He was impossible to pin down. MILF Manor Season 2. Are you trying to be mysterious? He tilted his head quizzically. You're not around much, and even when you are, you almost never talk about yourself.
I can do that.
I apologize if I gave the impression of being opaque. I'll have to make an effort to be more amiable. He locked his door smoothly and tucked his key into his pocket. I never noticed, but he's got torn jeans. Probably like those ones that come pre-torn. He probably buys like those designer pre-ripped jeans. They're so stupid. I've never understood the appeal of pre-ripped jeans. You are doing me quite the favor by accompanying me. He faced you again with the playfulness that was characteristic for him. I would be happy to tell you whatever you want to know about me.
Gladly.
He is such a flirt. If there is ever anything you want to ask, you are welcome to query me. I'm an open book. What brand are my jeans? Aeropostale. I had to check. Apparently they're Aeropostale. Buy jeans, rip them up yourself, and then sell them as designer jeans. Yep. Don't know how I feel about a shirt. It is a shirt that I could definitely see making some people uncomfortable. What size jeans do I wear? I believe 32 waist and 30 leg. His officialness of the statement made you expect a formal bow from him. It didn't happen, though. I know there are things I would like to know about you. Your ma would have been thrilled to hear that. It was all coming together just as she hoped. Instead of asking him personal information, you needed to use your question-asking authority for something else first. Where were you thinking of going sightseeing? I'm a pet mom, I can play the song and they won't get traumatized. You never know, Trailer Stuff, they might. I like the Lucky brand jeans because they say Lucky You inside. I like unzipping that, I am lucky. Aw. What about shirt? The shirt, I don't know what brand the shirt is. I'd have to, turn it around. Baxter placed a hand on his chin, considering. Ideally, the first stop would be your choice. Since you're so considerately joining me today, I may as well take advantage of your local expertise. After that, I can take you to a place that, possibly, even you haven't been to yet. Hey, J-Dot! I have a rental car, so it is no worry if you want to go somewhere that's too far to walk to. My choice will certainly require driving. I'm positive you've stepped on every inch of this town.
What do you think?
Does that sound agreeable? Gene revealed 11,000 subs. Gene revealed. Letting you pick the first place and following it up with somewhere you hadn't been to before, despite living here for almost your whole life? What did he think you'd missed? Maybe it was the overconfidence of a tourist, or maybe it was something trickier. But he'd caught you off guard again. With Baxter's promise to tell you whatever you want to know, you hadn't prepared for him to still be so hard to read. You should have known he wouldn't suddenly get actually straightforward, no matter how direct he claimed he would act. Works for me. Have any subs until I put on the jacket? With what you understood about Baxter, his part of the day would be fun for both of you. And he shouldn't have to plan everything. He was a friend, not your tour guide. Baxter flashed his shiny white teeth. Do you have anywhere in mind, then? You pondered the request. If there is one place someone like Baxter should go see, what would it be? Inspiration struck. There was no place more iconic around. How about Shopping Street? The Shopping Street? I don't know what you mean. Given it was minutes away on foot, you worried you might have offered old news. But it didn't come up on the map as anything other than a few of the permanent shops. You had to be there to know. It's a row of local shops and stalls by the beach. It's right near our neighborhood. Really? His hanging attention encouraged you to continue. It's meant to be fun for visitors, not all the typical grocery stores or clothing shops or things like that. Everyone should go there at least once while they're here. Hot Pockets for dinner? Cool, cool. Baxter's rich and gets his teeth whitened. Take him. Watching Dance Moms. Baxter made a grand gesture for waving you on to lead out.
Perfect.
That sounds absolutely perfect. Please, show me the way. You obliged, and the two of you strolled down the inclined street. And to get some photos printed, and I want to get your thoughts on it, on if I should have got a photo printed of me. Probably not worth bothering, trailer. You obliged, and the two of you strolled down the inclined street. Neither of you were particularly rushing, and it still took less than 15 minutes to walk down to the spot. You skipped over the cement curb onto a worn gray-bricked road, and were there. Tantalizing smells and a mix of attention-grabbing music drifted from the open doors and outdoor stalls. The different songs blended into one new tune, a celebration for your senses. As normal for tourist season, the path bustled with a crowd of excited visitors. Aesthetically, Baxter stood out from the vast majority of the colorful tourists, but his enthusiasm matched their faces of awe.
I love it.
This is wonderful. Confident you had suggested the correct choice, you let out a happy sigh. You continued wandering, but now you let Baxter direct the way. You merely followed along as he explored. He flitted to and fro from stalls like a monochrome butterfly in a flower garden. Gary had been more correct than she could have known when she made that comparison at the beginning of summer. It's fine, trailer. Honestly, more subscribers doesn't really make that much of a difference for me anymore, I don't think. More viewers is what I need, and that's not coming. And frankly, what I need is for YouTube to stop putting my videos on limited monetization. Speaking of which, I did request a review of a couple of my videos that were put on limited monetization. They got put back to regular monetization, so... Hey, PK! Why am I not getting notified? Did you click the bell icon? If you did, then I don't know. That's my only idea. Click the bell icon to get notified of new content. You tell people about me? Thanks, Fart. Force them to sit it down and watch. I should try to do a few more recorded videos. Like, I should try to get, at least, 1 or 2 recorded videos up a week, but... I don't even know what to talk about with them, so... Anyway, give me a second. I gotta blow my nose. Give me 1 minute. That feels better. Like blue, but I never love it on my nails, but I also go light and I'm pale. I'm not showing my tissue scapegoat. Hey, no name. Hey, Killface. That is weird, PK. I don't know. YouTube's stupid, that's what it is. No, no name. I would not wear an abaya. While you had memories attached to each corner of the street, watching his first experience, it was almost like seeing it with fresh eyes yourself. You scrutinized the available stalls out today, and realized Baxter would have a huge gaping hole in the experience. There was no magician performing tricks anywhere. That bit of shopping street wonder would go unknown to Baxter, even though he came all the way there. By chance, Baxter led you into the area where shows happened in the past. Cards and coins that appeared out of nowhere, and free balloons were inseparable from this place to you. Watching Baxter out of the corner of your eyes, it struck you that you had never gotten close to a tourist before. Everyone you knew well was also familiar with Sunset Bird, or at least something in the area. But he was another one of the temporary passers-by. If only we came a different day, we could have gotten dolphin balloons.
Huh?
Dolphin balloons? He repeated the words curiously, trying to put the concept together in his mind. Yeah, in the past there was a magician called the Amazing Alexander who did tricks here. He'd award participants with those balloons as a thank you. Sometimes they were shaped as animals, like the dolphin balloons. It made them extra special. Baxter listened closely as you continued, hanging on to your every word. Extra amazing, you could say. Regular balloons wouldn't be amazing enough for the Amazing Alexander. And he must have had good business, because those probably cost way more than normal balloons. Baxter stared back, starry-eyed at your tale of the performer. You weren't expecting him to be so dazzled by a mention of a random street magician. But he was. He pulled a coin out of my ear.
Charming.
Impressive. I suppose that's one way of increasing capital. I didn't know you could mint money from an ear. You shook your head at that, laughing. It was a good trick. I'm sure it was. Even if it produced a counterfeited quarter. I hope you didn't try to spend it. Even without seeing the shows for himself, Baxter was having a good time. That was nice. Will I be going Pride? I doubt I'll bother. Like, why? Like, it's Cornwall. Am I reading a comic? Not just now. I need to finish up. I did get a couple of comics that I need to read. Coming here, it was more than just showing a small part of the world you lived in. You had shown him parts of yourself. Now felt appropriate to use your privilege of asking him a question about himself. Choose nail colors for tomorrow. Black. Let's go. Let's see J-Dot's goth phase. It's time to enter your goth phase, J-Dot. Can you sue Canada for lead poisoning on creosote? Or creosote puddings from the Dark Planet? Probably not. They show wear a lot. You could always do like some Sailor Moon nails or something. I don't know. I already got Minnie on my nails. J-Dot gonna be a goth girlfriend. Aw. Sick. You've been sick, Killface? That's a shame, Killface. Hope you feel better soon. And, yeah. Go get some rest. Hey, where are you from? Blue inspired by Sailor Moon? Baxter put his hands casually in his pockets, his gaze wandering out over the crowds and the ocean and off into the distance. Starting with the basics? A commendable choice. Goth reveal. Hey, Comic Brook! Haven't seen you in a bit, Comic Brook. Playing my favorite game yet? Not sure if we'll actually see Cove this episode. It's Baxter-focused DLC here.
Wow.
Well, in the most immediate sense, I suppose you could say I came here from Virginia. That's where my college is located, after all. Any more than that, well, it would spoil the mystery, would it not? He glanced back your way and grinned cheekily. Now he was trying to be an enigma on purpose. Sounds fair. But of course, I know that is not entirely what you meant. I'm merely teasing. While I might study in Virginia, I'm actually from the proverbial Oregon Trail, born and bred. That's the state where my home is, if you can believe it. Oh, Oregon. That's not far away at all. Virginia, though, not so much. Baxter is such a 90s name. Had rabies? Eh. How do you like it back in Virginia? I'd say I enjoy being there, for the most part. As you can probably imagine, it's quite different from here or back home in Oregon. Especially the humidity. Everything seems smaller there, too. In California, it's like the sky goes on forever, and the mountains and the horizon are impossibly far away. Oregon as well. There's a scale there to the scenery that just doesn't compare. Whereas in Virginia, the hills are just that. Hills, rather than mountains. Quaint little things, really. And they sort of gently enfold everything. His gaze grew distant again, as his mind conjured up memories of the landscape, like he was getting lost among all those quaint little hills. Yeah, that's right, Comic Brook. Did you go to the anime feet panel? Aerith? Nice. I was meant to ask, like, regular Final Fantasy VII or remake Final Fantasy VII, but it's the same dress she wears in both, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Frog nails? Cool, cool. Didn't go to that panel, but I heard a ton of yelling coming from that room. Another good thing about it is the trees. Virginia has plenty of forest cover, like Oregon, so at least in that sense I'm among the familiar. That tracks. I think I read somewhere that something like 2/3 of Virginia consists of forests, right? 2/3? I can readily believe it. You're well informed, Jamie. His voice took on a hushed, affectionate quality. Leaning more towards a remake, but yeah, they're similar. I must confess, I have a soft spot for trees. There are these beautiful eastern white pines planted all over the college dorms. Magnificent all year round. When summer comes to a close, the needles get everywhere. They fall so thick in places that the ground around is covered in what looks like one big tan shag carpet. If you were to walk underneath any of the branches, you'd be picking needles out of your hair until Christmas. He smiled at the mental image. Doesn't that make it kinda hard to maintain your whole black and white aesthetic? It's true, the natural tones do tend to clash. I have brown eyes, at least, which means I can make it work if it comes down to it. But you'd rather not have to, right? A bemused grin.
You're incredible.
It's remarkable. You know me so well already. Baxter exhaled slowly, almost dreamily. Ah, that's another good thing Virginia and Oregon have in common. With all the trees around and the variable climate, you truly get the experience of the seasons changing. Yes, competent. It is the DLC. Though it is Baxter focused. Glitter frog nails? I see no reason why not, J-Dot. Get one with a lily pad background? Summer to fall is especially beautiful. Colors like you would not believe. He was about to get lost in thought again, but then caught himself. Cornwall's just a 12-day, 5-hour walk. So, to finally answer your question, yes, I'd say that I like it in Virginia a fair amount. Cove Baxter, I said what I said. Yeah. Hey, Roxy. Way ahead of your gameplay now? Out of curiosity, Roxy, did you get the DLC? Any of the DLC? I've gotten all of it, so I'm on the the Baxter DLC now. Just curious if you ended up getting the DLC. Because I think you would have had to pay for it. Do you know toads don't swim? I've tossed at least one toad full force into the lake thinking it was a frog. I mean, does anything swim well when it's thrown full force into a lake? The humidity is still a bit of a sticking point. He narrowed his eyes a fraction as the pun rolled off his tongue without his fully intending it. But at the very least, that's only an issue during the summer months. And happily for me, I've spent my summer elsewhere this year. You grew up pretty close by then. We're practically neighbors.
Oh?
Kermit a puppet won't swim? Hey. You can totally swim. That's true, isn't it? While I might not be quite as close a neighbor as a certain someone we could mention, when it comes to states, I grew up right next door. The thought of this seemed to please him greatly. You got the impression that Baxter had a soft spot for these kinds of coincidences. Speaking of which, it's actually a little funny. The land my family home was built on, I suppose you could call it somewhat remote. It's a fair-sized estate, situated a little ways off from the rest of the town. So, until I moved into college dorms, I'd go as far as to say that I'd never had neighbors before. His demeanor became more thoughtful at this. As for you, the admission came as something of a surprise. In the time you'd known Baxter, which was admittedly not very long, this was the closest time he'd come to being melancholy. And even then, it was the faintest of glimpses. You blinked and it was gone, a slate wiped clean. Another thought caught his fancy, and soon the characteristic grin was back in his face.
Not bad.
In any case, now we are neighbors in the truest sense of the word. At least until my time in Sunset Bird reaches its end. It was a nice thought, in spite of the certain knowledge that it would all soon be over. The two of you shared a look which could best be described as neighborly. What's your hometown like? I don't know if I got around to asking where in Oregon you're from specifically. Right. I suppose I hadn't named the place yet. It's a little town called Golden Grove. You likely wouldn't have heard of it. Sure enough, you couldn't say you knew anything about the place. The name kind of rang a bell, though. boyfriend dot. Kermit catches a fly with his tongue. God damn it, I have to say this. I always thought he was catching a frog with his tongue. Or a pig with his... I always thought he was catching a pig with his tongue. Don't have Baxter? Yeah, so I got it because I backed the game on Kickstarter. So because I backed it on Kickstarter, I got all the DLC included as it came out. Like, I got to download all the DLC as it came out. Otherwise, yeah, it's cheap. I think it's like a couple bucks. Like $4 or something like that. So it's fairly cheap for the DLC. But yes, you would have to pay separately for it. Thoughts on having more than one girlfriend, boyfriend? As long as everyone's on the same page, I have nothing against it. Go for it. Kermit eats bugs. Kermit eats pigs. Do I like spiders? No. Kermit is all about that pork. That pork flavor. Less than $5 currently. With a name like that, it sounds like you must have a lot of forests over there. Baxter smiled with all his teeth.
Of course.
There's only one thing that springs to mind, isn't there? It's built on the slope of a mountain and surrounded on all sides by woodland. In the fall, the whole area shines with a golden and orange patina of leaves. You almost forget any other colors exist. No wonder they called it something so literal. I looked up the other game's price, was kind of surprised. Which game? The one I was playing before? Do you mean the Don't Take It Personally? That was another one I backed on Kickstarter, so I don't know what the actual price is. I don't know what the price of any of the games that I've backed on Kickstarter were, because I backed them years ago. J. Dodd in her fuck men era. Yeah. Guild Wars? Not my kind of game, Roxy. Guild Wars just isn't my thing. It does make the place sound grander than it is, though. In truth, it's a small town, though not quite as tiny as Sunset Bird. You can easily stroll the length of this area. In Golden Grove, you'd at least want a bike or similar to make the trip, though some locals do take the walk. $20? Maybe more than I would have expected from it, but I did like that game from what I played of it. It's a quiet, sleepy corner of Oregon where hardly anyone comes or goes. You either moved to the area to settle down, or you've lived there all your life to begin with. My ancestors fell into the former category. Myself, the latter. You've left now, though. I have indeed. I guess I bucked the trend in more ways than one. That certainly made sense. Ever since you'd first met Baxter, he seemed like the kind of guy to always be making waves of some kind or another. Where's Dandy? I don't know, Feeder. Dandy doesn't really stop by anymore. Totoro nails? Something about the way he said that made you think he meant something else by it, though. Don't know if it's professional enough for $20. Hard to say. Lost all my nails in a terrible veal-related incident. With a sense of style like that, you had to have turned a few heads. Little Mermaid nails? Little Mermaid nails would definitely be topical. With the movie having just... Is it out yet? Did The Little Mermaid come out already, or is it, like, about to come out? I don't know. Would I ever eat a cricket? I don't know, take another. I'd probably rather not. Think I swiped your boyfriend on Tinder? Baxter raised his eyebrows in a look of mock surprise. Owing to my monochromatic predilections, you mean? No. While my sense of dress might not be in keeping with the local environs, that's not quite what I meant. He hummed thoughtfully and tapped his chin with a forefinger, trying to find precisely the right words. After a moment's pause, he continued. Wednesday Addams nails? I mean, you could. You have to understand that this is a small, rural town, with a fair number of the residents are working class. There are some more affluent areas, but...
To be honest,
I suppose you could say that my family has a reputation in those parts as the local people of means. Or perhaps, to put it in more vulgar terms, you're rich. He snapped his fingers. Precisely. And, for better or worse, everyone knows it. If you were to go there and pass my name around, anyone would know who you were talking about. He gave you a meaningful look as he said this. Please don't actually do that. It might embarrass even me. You got the sneaking suspicion that it wasn't really his own fluster he was concerned about. He waved a hand with great indifference, as if to lazily swat his own words out of the air. You figured that this was all he felt like saying on the subject. If I'm ever in town, I promise I won't throw your acclaimed name around.
very well.
Thank you. You needn't go out of your way on my account. Although if you are ever in the area... His smile took on an air of boyish amusement. I'm not planning on being in Golden Grove anytime soon. But all the same, I get the feeling it might not be long before I meet you there, one way or another. Who can say? Wait, why am I apologizing to Vanna? Would I say that I need to apologize to Vanna? J-Dot apologized to Jenna. Jenna apologized to J-Dot. Apologized to Habibi. Apologized to Vanna. Vanna apologized to Comic Brook. Wait, why is everyone apologizing to each other? Oh, it's Wednesday Addams Nails. It's Monday J-Dot. You guys are cringy AF. Not wrong, Zach. Not wrong. Well, I'm not sorry for anything. I'm not apologizing to any of you bastards. All I've been doing is playing my goddamn game. I didn't do anything. But I'm glad everyone is making up to each other, making amends for whatever the hell happened. Apologize to Roxy. You're right. Sorry, Roxy. You're not a bastard, Roxy. With that, his voice trailed off, and his gaze drifted to the middle distance in contemplation. Apologize to America? Hell no! I don't see why I should apologize to America Ferrera. I've never said anything about her. America Ferrera seems like a nice, lovely woman. I've never said anything to the contrary. I've never said anything otherwise. I mean, I've never really talked much about her in general. She's not someone I talk about in general. But I've never said anything bad about her. Eh. Hey, Trevonda. Moving on. Thanks for telling me. You were content not to ask more. Don't mention it. It's kind of you to ask. Normally, I wouldn't spend so much time talking about myself. But if it can be of interest to you, then I suppose we are both winners. And then you were struck by the most obvious idea in the world. You were on Shopping Street, window shopping with a tourist. Baxter needed to get a souvenir for his Days in Sunset bird. My boyfriend doesn't like it, doesn't like when I rock back and forth. How do I tell him I'm practicing for old age and my rocking chair? Just tell him that. Application for mod status. That happens on when I have a whim, Roxy. That is just completely in my on a whim. Hi, Lolo, whatever. Should I buy him a souvenir, or should I tell him to pick his own souvenir? Am I buying him the souvenir, or am I telling him to pick his own? Because I mean, it seems weird to buy somebody else's souvenir. You know, like that. Like this just seems weird. Down to F off if he doesn't like it. Yeah, dump him. The universal advice for all relationship related questions. Dump him. Break up. We are hot by this souvenir. I have not, Rebecca. Put in a GTA cheat code. Come on, guys, help me decide. Help me decide which option to go with here. Hey, Sharon. Cupid dance could bring the boyfriend back in line. So could a whip. Go the second one. That was what I was thinking. Nothing brings a boyfriend back in line quite like a whip. Boyfriend starts back-talking you. Whoopsh! He's not giving you the loving you need? Whoosh! He's leaving you to do all the cleaning? Whoosh! Alright, Baxter, you should pick something out. This is the best place to get a souvenir.
Gladly.
Excellent idea. I should find something nice here. I've never been whipped. No. I'm not into BDSM myself. And I should note that I'm not talking about whipping in, like, a kinky sense. I'm talking about whipping in, like, Egyptian slave driver sense. "35 years old? Well, you don't look a day over 30. He returned to his exploration of the assorted shops, now with a renewed sense of purpose. The big picture had been replaced by every small detail. You lent support, pointing out hidden gems and offering the local opinion. He was unsure of what truly spoke of Sunset Bird. I do not want to be whipped. But after some back and forth, a change of heart, and then your advice, Baxter finally chose a cute bird figure carved from driftwood. 35 isn't bad, it isn't 40. Yeah. I'm 38, so I'm coming up on 40. The statue was pale and smooth. It fit in the palm of his hand, a perfect size to take with you. What's wrong with 40? It's over the hill. 40 is officially over the hill. The wood was advertised as being from the very beach you were across from right at that moment. He was quite literally taking a piece of Sunset Bird with him. Baxter loved it, and you agreed that he'd made a good choice. You walked away from the shop side by side with the successful purchase swinging between you. When Baxter was gone, he'd only have to look at the driftwood statue to recall his days there. Your gaze wandered back to the man beside you, who you still hardly knew, the one you had so little time to know. What are you studying in college? You're 40, Roxy? You're over the hill. Sorry, Roxy, you're over the hill. What hill? The H Hill comic book. Anyway, what are you studying in college? I'm studying for a business administration and management degree. The expectation is that I will manage and or administrate some company in the future. He tilted his head, aware of the silly way he put it. Nothing too specific, I'm afraid. Wow. I would never have guessed. Careful. Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit and all that. Anyway, it might not surprise you to know that I can be a touch particular. I know the importance of coherence, with individuals acting in a well-coordinated fashion. And I like things to function well for systems to operate smoothly.
Honestly.
I confess, you could call me controlling at times. Not with people, but with processes. Don't talk to Roxy this way. I suppose. I'm sorry, Roxy. I'm sorry. If Roxy's over the hill, that means I'm dead. Especially when it comes to enacting plans. I'd much rather act under my own steam than follow someone else's lead. I'm only flexible with the personal, not the business aspects of life. He spread his palms matter-of-factly. But that's enough about my aspirations. You know my story, so what about you, Jamie? I'm curious to know what the world has in store for you further down the line. I just graduated high school.
Really?
Oh, really? My congratulations. It's an achievement to be proud of. If it's not too much to ask, where do you see yourself next? College? Straight into a career, perhaps? I forget what I chose as my future plans. You told him about your future plans. I don't mind. You'd had no problems discussing your plans with others in the past. There wasn't a reason that Baxter should be any different. Who is Jamie? Me. I'm Jamie. My character is Jamie. I chose Jamie as my character's name. I chose Jamie as my character's name because I hadn't actually... I guess for some reason I hadn't actually downloaded the spoken name list. Because, like, there's that DLC you can get where they have, like, a whole bunch of different names that have been voiced. By default, Jamie is the only one. So yeah, like, by default, Jamie is the only name that gets voiced lines that the characters say out loud. Jamie is the only name that they bothered recording being said out loud. I got that DLC? Yeah, so Jamie is the one that comes by default, so I hadn't actually gotten that DLC, I guess, but by the time I downloaded started the game. I think I just must have just forgotten to download it. So yeah. My character is Jamie. A stripper. At your reply, Baxter moved in slightly, his eyes sparkling. Since you'd responded positively, he had no qualms about letting his curiosity show. Trans character? I am playing, my character is actually non-binary. This character is, as far as we know, this character is just a man. It's like man, where if you created a player, they wouldn't say the name. I mean, that's the case for most games. Most games, even if they've got voice lines, they don't really have... Because, I mean, it's expensive to voice... It takes resources to just have people record dozens of names. Just a person? Yes. Like you, I'd been planning to study full-time at a public university. Baxter attentively waited for you to finish, and then nodded encouragingly. I think it's wonderful you have something that you're aspiring to already. I wish you the best of luck. It's an exciting thing, taking the first step on your journey.
You know.
You truly never know just where you'll end up. Take me, for instance. I had never lived outside of my hometown until I left for college. And look at me now. All of a sudden, I am in California of all places, cavorting about with a charming new friend. Life is nothing if not full of unexpected developments. I'd like to think we're doing what we can to make the most of that. I didn't have to be here, and you could have pretended no one new had appeared in your small town and gone on as usual. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Glad to hear it.
I feel the same about finding out where things go from here and now. Cavorting, I know. I would like to voice act a character. It's probably pretty tough. Besides, we've only been talking about work and school and such. There's much more to life than that. The world would be altogether too dull otherwise. You might not remember me mentioning it when we first met, but my most fulfilling hobby is ballroom dancing. It's a true passion of mine. You seem to remember him saying something along those lines. It's important to have genuine hobbies, don't you think? Hey, totally, Kate. I'm dull. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. He was right. You had pastimes you loved too. Speaking of hobbies... I'm an artist. Baxter inclined his head, attentive to your words.
I see.
That's interesting. I had no idea. I'd be glad to hear more about it sometime, if you'd care to elaborate further. I can't say I have any experience in the area myself. That'd be nice. It's something I really enjoy. It doesn't have to make me money. So, should I just hold off while the rest of you just go through all of All-Star? Or can we explain it? Or, can we skip the rest of All-Star? Baxter Dong reveal? Turns out his penis, also black and white, half black, half white. Of course, J. Dot. Always enjoy having you in the chat. I feel the same way about ballroom dancing. It's something that has intrinsic value to me beyond the potential to earn a living from it. Although, to be clear, it isn't entirely devoid of, shall we say, remunerative benefits. His tone took on a sly edge, and his eyes brightened with amusement. For those with a certain level of skill, there's some money to be had in the competitive scene. Prize winnings and such. Hey there, I thought we weren't talking about money. I've been tricked! Baxter laughed heartily, his face apologetic.
I apologize.
I'm sorry to have deceived you. But I wasn't lying when I described it as a true passion of mine. Any additional compensation is nothing more than a fringe benefit. That's okay. I forgive you. I'm most grateful. And thank you for indulging me on the topic. I had fun. From there, you and Baxter continued poking around until he'd browsed every shop on the path. He even doubled back around, leading you all the way across again for a second glance. Despite the short length, it was easy to miss something even after a dozen passes through, because the area was so packed. But Baxter was satisfied with going through twice. He came to a halt at the end of the path, his attention leaving the shops and landing on you. Thank you for showing me this place.
Bravo.
This truly has been a fantastic stop on my California sightseeing extravaganza. Super Mario Sunshine Beach? He inclined his head gracefully. The shopping street was officially a hit. Glad it didn't disappoint you. Nothing this charming could ever disappoint me. Thoughts on System of a Down? Terrible band. Chop Suey is legitimately one of the worst songs I have ever heard in my life. Like, just straight up one of the worst songs I have ever heard. Sorry, Stoneflame. It's a bit about self-righteous suicides, and it's like, God, that is a stupid-ass goddamn line. That is a stupid-ass line. Like, the lyrics are just painfully stupid. I will say, Croc Suey, the mashup of Chop Suey and Crocodile Rock, hilarious. Because it really highlights just how bad Chop Suey is and just how stupid those lyrics are. Like, mashing it up with the music from Crocodile Rock, it really highlights just how goofy the lyrics to that song are. Cigaro? Never heard that song.
Now.
I suppose I need to hold up my side of the bargain. I said I'd show you somewhere new, didn't I? Are you still interested in joining me in checking off an outing on my own goal list? Yeah, I'm not ditching you now. Fantastic. In that case, we'll need to return to the neighborhood. He sauntered off in the correct direction, before clarifying what his plan was, leaving you to trail behind him. Five-finger death punch? Like, the thing from Kill Bill? It was cool when it happened in Kill Bill. With your brain abuzz all over the places, with your brain abuzz over all the places he could possibly be taking you, you mentally said goodbye to your old friend, the shopping street. You made it back to Baxter's rented condo and climbed into his also rented car. He brought up directions on his phone, though he was careful not to let you catch a glimpse of the destination. He didn't even give you a hint. Then Baxter slipped his phone into the car handle slot for future reference and began to drive. They're a band? Don't think I've ever heard them, Roxy. You relax in Baxter's passenger seat, attempting to puzzle out where he was actually taking you. He was in a good mood, but any attempt at asking about the plan resulted in increasingly coy answers. After how many questions of yours he'd been answering, it was funny to have him suddenly act as if he'd never heard of the concept of sharing information with another person. You didn't push it. Inevitably, the veil of secrets would be removed. You only had to be patient. However, when he finally turned into a parking lot, you admitted it was not what you had been expecting. even if you didn't know what to expect. Still laughing over Now I'm Going to Hell? It was still something you would not have guessed in a million years. On the top of the spacious building was a human-sized white pin. The place he'd wanted to sightsee at was a bowling alley. Baxter led you to the entryway on air-light feet. Even from there, you could hear the clattering of normal-sized pins getting knocked down, cutting into the disco tunes playing in the background. The front desk advertised rates for paying per game versus per hour. Along the wall, a tower of shelves held dozens of shoes in all sorts of sizes. And past that were the shining alleys. I haven't been bowling in forever. Probably would have been a teenager the last time I went bowling, probably.
Alright.
Here we are. He was content, as if bowling was all his soul needed to find peace. What do they call the small candy bars fun size? Because they are liars! They are lying liars who lie! Baxter brought condom. I mean, if he's taking you to the bowling alley there, he's gonna need them, right? Bowling alley dates? Yeah, you need the condoms. Gonna need the whole box of condoms. A bowling alley isn't what most people think of as sightseeing. This is normal Monday night stuff.
Oh?
Sightseeing is all about the sights you want to see. You glanced at sparkling floors, walls, balls, and even couches. It was certainly a sight. Felt an Evanescence. I'll admit the only Evanescence song I heard was that one song of theirs. Their first big hit. The one that apparently the producer forced in a dude who wasn't even part of the band. What was that big song when they first debuted? Like that first big debut song they had? Because, I read recently that the dude in that song wasn't even part of the band. He wasn't someone, it wasn't an idea that the band had come up with to have him there. The record label forced him in because, I think for the music video. Because it's no, this is Bring Me to Life. Yes, Roxy, Bring Me to Life. Because, yeah, it's no, shitty dudes with terrible voices are in right now. Douchey-looking guys with bad voices. That's the big thing. So we gotta put those in so that you can get so that people will pay attention. Just so stupid. Pickleback. I was thinking Limp Bizkit. Or Len. That dude from Len with the bad singing voice. The girl that girl has such a nice pleasant singing voice, and then the dude is just painful to listen to. Amy Lee cosplay? I don't think so. I did find a really good cover of Steal My Sunshine by Portugal the Man. Hey, Lucy. Because Portugal the Man, they're really good. So yeah, their cover of Steal My Sunshine is pretty good. Personally, I've never been bowling in my life. I wanted to try it for longer than I can remember, and, well, what better opportunity than when I'm on vacation? Wouldn't it be so much stranger to try it whilst I live my regular life? The life that, I must remind you, never had bowling in it before. It would be entirely unexplainable. Here I'm a tourist. Doing new things as part of my job description. It's okay to have fun at home, too. You're right, of course. But he was less sure than usual, like some of the boldness you associate with him had been. You know what? I mean, I won't argue with that logic. It was too entertaining an argument, and there was nothing wrong with him wanting to have his fun now. Hanging out with Baxter, seeing firsthand how he was living, you were compelled to ask yourself, had you really done everything you wanted to? You were reminded of the fact that your time in Sunset Bird had its own limits, and you could very well be reaching the end of that line soon. This would be your last summer you had before becoming an adult, before taking your first step into everything that lay beyond. Sometimes, lying awake in bed at night, you would feel the tension like a bubble in your chest. The worry, the excitement, the anticipation of what the future might hold. Before that, how could you make the most of what remained? You weren't sure how to answer those questions, but in the current occasion, at least, you didn't have the chance to ponder them further. Baxter chimed in again. Your train of thought evaporated.
So?
Since we're on the subject, Jamie, have you ever done this before? Bowling, I mean. I've bowled before. I see. But have you been to this particular bowling alley? I know it's quite new. What? You glanced at the sparkling floors, walls, balls, and even couches. It certainly was recently made. Not a thing had any sign of wear and tear, and none of it was familiar. No, I haven't been. Baxter smirked. Victorious!
See?
So I did bring you somewhere you'd never seen before. Alright, you tried. I'll give you this one. Thank you. I'll take what I can get. You know what? While we're on the subject of a bowling alley, since we're at a bowling alley, I am still salty. 25 years later. I am quarter of a century later. I am still salty. My second to last field trip, class field trip in elementary school was to a bowling alley. A local bowling alley. We walked down to the bowling alley. That was the second to last school or class trip that I took in elementary school. The very last was to Lamoureux Park. I'm pretty sure it was Lamoureux Park. Which is not like some fancy... It's not some fancy park. It's not a theme park or amusement park. It's not... national park. It's not... There's nothing special about it. It's just... It's a fucking... park. Sounds kind of cool. But for the second... my final two class trips. A park and a bowling alley. My brother's class who had been fucking terrors all through the 8 years they were there. My brother's class drove teachers to retirement. They went to La Ronde. They went to an amusement park in Montreal. Museums, an aquarium, nature preserve. Yeah, I mean, before, we had done those earlier in my school year, or in my school time. Other times I've been to museums. Well, maybe not museums. I don't know if I ever went to museums. But yeah, nature preserves, Upper Canada Village, obviously, is an annual one that kids go to, school trips go on. There might have been some quarry we went to once or something. Cornwall's in an awkward position. There isn't really a whole lot of interesting stuff that's particularly nearby. But, my brother's class drove teachers to retirement and they got La Ronde. My class were a bunch of friggin' nerds and just an absolute bunch of nerds. And we got the bowling alley. And we walked there. Didn't even take the bus to the bowling alley. We had to walk to the bowling alley. It's been more than a quarter century. It's been a quarter of a century. I am still salty about it. To a certain extent, I think it kind of spoiled bowling for me. I think it kind of ruined bowling for me. I have to walk the whole way. Because, now, that is what I associate with bowling. One thing that's funny is, so the school I went to, the elementary school I went to was Amers Corners Elementary School. The bowling alley was, I lived on, the street I lived on was Edgar Street. So I was actually within walking distance of the school. So I honestly, I think I was in grade 6 when they changed the buses so that it would no longer, they sort of changed the bus system so that if you were within a certain distance of the school, the bus would no longer pick you up or drop you off. So, I actually, from grade 6, 7, and 8, I think it was grade 6 it happened. But, I had to start walking home from school, walking to and from school. The bus literally would not pick me up or drop me off, so I had to walk. And the bowling alley was past my house, so that day we went to the bowling alley on our way back to the school. I just went back home. I took my bag with me from the school to the bowling alley, and then just didn't even bother getting back to the school because it was end of the day. So I was yep, all right, well, this is where I'm heading anyway. Anyway, now then, should we get in line? They seem to be popular today. Or perhaps this is considered a slow day. I have no basis of comparison. But we might be waiting for a lane. It's alright. The two of you joined the queue at the counter. Though the bowling alleys were indeed full, You got your booking in and were handed the rental shoes for when an opening came. You laced up your shoes for a sec, and that was it in terms of finishing preparation. There was time aplenty to kill before your round would begin. Well, since you were here, I was wondering, what's your family like? Baxter straightened up properly. He'd guessed you would ask about this sooner or later.
Honestly.
It's not the most exciting story, all told. My immediate family consists of my mother and father and myself. For better or worse, I am an only child. That tends not to surprise people. His voice took on a slight lilting quality, as if he was reciting something he practiced many times over. In many ways, my parents are the prototypical example of success. They're affluent, sophisticated, and have a wide-reaching and influential social circle. As families go, I suppose I'd have to say that we are a happy set. As sometimes happened with Baxter, you weren't convinced he was giving you the whole picture. You couldn't help but give him a curious look. What about not in general? His eyes narrowed knowingly, and his mouth pressed into a thin smirk. I can see you're not content. I love my parents, but that's not to say that there aren't complaints to be had. It's a mutual feeling. They understand care through the lens of control and protection. That's been their way ever since I was young. In that sense, they treat me no different from a child. But, of course, they are quiet, educated, esteemed, and a tad old. As is their company most days. That's not the environment to act as a kid. That meant I've always been expected to behave with the maturity of someone their own age, or perhaps even older somehow. A bit of a paradox, isn't it? Do everything as an adult while getting the respect an infant does. As for me, I think of myself as much more of a free spirit at heart. I'm my own person, and I'd like to enjoy life in whatever way I see fit.
Well,
you could say, I'm a bit of a rebel. I'm a rebel, Dottie. A lone wolf. Give me a second, I gotta look up the, I gotta look up the quote. You don't want to get mixed up with a guy like me. I'm a loner, Dottie. A rebel. So long, Dot. I love that line. He said it almost furtively, like he divulged some important personal secret. Ooh, so you're a bad boy. He shrugged in a blasé sort of manner and smiled cheekily at your quip.
absolutely.
The very worst. Speaking of your parents, where are they now? You didn't mention them visiting Sunset Bird. They're at home, most likely. I don't know for sure. Huh. That was odd to you. Why did Baxter come to here during his semester off instead of going back to his family home? I didn't want to stay with them, or go back home to Oregon at all, in fact. More rebellious behavior on my part, you see. His tone was a strange mixture of proud and diffident, like he knew how frivolous it sounded, but had decided to do it anyway.
Now.
Mother and father agreed to me vacationing on my own, but under the condition that they would have the choice of where I stayed. California being fairly close by, and Sunset Bird being so quaint, not to mention our prior excursions to the area, they concluded that this was the easiest way to keep me out of trouble. They had it all planned out. A safe summer holiday for their only child. You couldn't help but be surprised at that. He'd said a similar thing when you two first met, actually. That his parents had sent him here to keep it from being exciting. Sure, Sunset Bird was small and sleepy for the most part, but it was still the Californian coast, and Prism Vista City was right there. What part of that was unexciting? Especially since he had his own rental car. What do you normally do if a summer in SoCal is unexciting? As you posed this question to him, Baxter's casual demeanor underwent a change. His customary relaxed smile took on a wickedly sharp edge, and his eyes flashed with a devilish mischief. The change was so surprising that you couldn't help but imagine what his prim and proper parents would think if they were here to see it. He shifted closer, conspiratorially, and spoke in a hushed voice.
So?
Do you know what the legal age requirement is for renting a car in the state of California? 21? 20? That's how old you are, right? You're right on the first count. It's 21. He said it totally casually, almost without inflection. I, however, am 19. I don't know, honey buddy. I think Baxter would let his girlfriend or wife pick out her own clothes. Took a moment for his words to register. Wait, Baxter was 19? And the legal age for renting a car was... Oh. You were rendered momentarily speechless. All this time and you had no idea. Baxter carried on speaking, not noticing, or politely ignoring, the implosion your thought process was undergoing. The truth of the matter is that my parents, being uncreative people, had full confidence that I wouldn't be able to rent a car. That's why Sunset Bird was chosen as my destination.
It's doable.
But I don't have the same issue. There are ways around the age limitation, as you might have gathered. Since I'm over 18 and have control over my own bank accounts, I honestly don't know why they bother trying at this point. The whole situation tickled you a little. It had to be extra work to get hold of the car, and all Baxter did with it was sightseeing. Even when law-breaking, there was something so proper about him. So how did you manage it? It wasn't all that difficult, honestly. I didn't have to do anything awful, don't worry. I have a large number of social connections myself. Members of the dance circuit, acquaintances from the country club, fellow students from college, miscellaneous family friends. The list goes on. The point is, I'm fortunate to have a connection in the area who had an extra car, which was mine to use provided I covered the costs. Plus a little extra, of course. The throw-away nature of this last part gave you pause. Baxter's idea of a little would probably put Cliff Holden's $20 to shame. Okay, that's good to know, I guess. Splendid. Guess glad that's squared away. He gave you a saccharine smile, all honey. And that, for now, was that. The conversation successfully filled the waiting period, and an attendant suddenly called you over. A lane was free. Excellent. Thank you. Together, you headed over to the rack of house balls, where Baxter began to size them up. So they come in different weights. Interesting. He touched the forefinger to his chin, pondering the choice carefully. You picked. A medium ball. Moderation was key. Not too heavy, not too light. You picked up one of the midweight balls that was just right. It was a dark ebony black. Seeing your choice, Baxter nodded approvingly.
Very well.
That is a solid option. The best of both worlds, right? Easy to hold, yet with sufficient weight to give it some momentum. I think I will follow your lead. Baxter picked out an identical ball, flashing you a wry smile. It's even the right color. Now, care to take the first shot? Sure, I can go first. Marvelous. I'm looking forward to this. Best of luck, Jamie. Mr. Monochrome took a seat on the striking red couch to watch. Him and that couch together almost looked like some kind of modern art display. But you weren't at a gallery, you were at a bowling alley, and he was waiting for you. You eyed the pins at the far end of the lane, gauging the distance. A breath in, a breath out. You raised the ball behind you, took a few steps forward, then swung! Let's be realistic. Nice! You knocked a fair number of pins down. This game wasn't so hard for you, and past experience definitely helped. Baxter gave a round of applause. I'm not going to pretend that my character is some sort of bowling whiz.
Exciting.
An excellent way to begin. Since it wasn't a strike, you had one more attempt this frame. You waited for your ball to be returned, then lined up another shot. This time the ball zipped down the lane and tipped over some more of the pins, but not quite enough to get the spare. That was too bad. The triangular arrangement was reset, and the scoreboard flashed up with Baxter's name. You took a seat on the faux leather just as Baxter limbered up for his first shot at the game. Alright then. Let's see how this goes, shall we? He turned the ball over in his hand a few times, as though it were an alien object. You eventually figured out he was searching for the holes to put his fingers through. It was more than obvious that he'd never so much as touched a bowling ball before. After more fumbling, he managed to work out the grip. Wish me luck. Not one for hesitation, Baxter took a couple large strides and sent the ball rolling. It hurtled down the lane, straight on, at first. Oh dear. You watched as the ball curved massively to one side. It reached the end of the lane, barely. It clipped the very back corner pin, which fell over right as the ball dropped into the gutter. 1 point for Baxter. He turned to you and grimaced playfully. Can you tell this is new to me? It's okay. Thank you. Well, here's hoping I can do a touch better than that. Baxter retrieved his ball and rolled his shoulders, taking form in front of the lane. His brow was furrowed in concentration. He wasn't as hasty as before. He took his time to line up the next shot. 1 step, 2 steps, a 3rd step, and release. It shot off like a cannonball, barreling ahead. It still occurred slightly at the last moment to knock one of the center right pins head on. 5 more points. Baxter nodded to himself, satisfied at the improvement.
Not bad.
60% success is plenty for a first attempt. It's all part of the learning process. I must say, I'm enjoying myself so far. Your turn, Jamie. As the game proceeded, you and Baxter settled into a rhythm. You exchanged friendly chatter between frames, with the odd quip or moment of celebration thrown in. It was a comfortable way to pass the afternoon. In an idle moment, you found yourself wondering more about Baxter again. The two of you would be there for a while yet, and if you felt inclined, it wouldn't be too hard to strike up a more in-depth conversation. You chuckled to yourself at the convenient pun. So what's up with the black and white thing? He looked down at his outfit and shrugged. I don't think of it as being much of a thing. Black and white happen to be my favorite colors. It's the only colors you ever wear. You even dyed your hair to match. That's more than a color simply being your favorite. Be funny if you stepped too far and slipped. Yep, that would be good. Baxter quietly absorbed her words with a wry smile, clearly more amused than embarrassed. For all that he just downplayed it, he totally owned this strange quirk of his character. Alright, I admit it. One could say I'm rather dedicated to the aesthetic as a whole. I came to it gradually, though I've had some level of affection for black and white ever since I was a small child. Anyone who knew me back then could have told you as much. I was very forthright and outspoken about my preferences, as children can often be. Double dealer? But it wasn't until a few years ago that I made the conscious decision to align my fashion choices with that underlying attachment. It was around then that I came to understand how clothing could be an expression of your personality, as a way of showing yourself to the world. I wanted to make a statement, you could say. So I started experimenting with more grayscale looks and began selectively tailoring my wardrobe around the limited palette. To start with, like most people, I had associated black and white with more formal tastes and styles. Tuxedos, dinner suits, tailcoats, and the like. But as I looked further beyond my own social group, I found a diverse range of alternative subcultures, which drew upon the monochrome theme. There was a lot of appeal for me there as well. I ended up adapting many of them into my own personal sense of taste.
So,
The rest, as they say, is history. That actually made a lot of sense now that it was all laid out in front of you. It was like one small choice early on had snowballed, gathering momentum as time went on, and now it formed a core part of who he was. But if that were the case, then the question remained. So, what made you like black and white in the first place? As a kid, I mean. Oh, that. He leaned in closer and playfully threaded his fingers together under his chin. Can you guess? What? It wasn't like him to beat around the bush. The fact that he was choosing to toy with you a little about this was not what you'd prepared for. You must really love zebras? Not quite. I do have a fondness for most black and white animals, in fact. And certainly, zebras are majestic creatures. But I prefer horses on the whole. You can't tame a zebra. People have tried, actually. They have an incredible ducking reflex, and a very nasty bite. Aw, that's a shame! In any case, that's not the reason I latched onto black and white as colors.
see?
I'll try and make it easier for you. The crux of the matter is this. Why do I, Baxter Ward, like the colors black and white so much? His voice took on a strange quality, placing a lot of emphasis on certain words. He was obviously trying to guide your thought process here, but you couldn't quite work it out. Wait a minute. Black and white? Baxter Ward. Black and white. No way. No way! It's because of your initials! He grinned from ear to ear, the punchline finally revealed. A face of sheer delight. You got it. Brilliant, isn't it? And I have to give you credit. You managed to see the picture without every piece of the puzzle. The truth is, my full name is Baxter Alexander Ward. 3 out of 3. He rested his chin in his hands and beamed at you, the very picture of smugness. You'd hardly seen him this contented in all the time you'd known him. Zebras. I mean, zebras are cool. Bloody brilliant. How corny. It's kid logic. Like, it's... Because, I mean, he came by, like, he chose black and white as his favorite colors as a kid. So it's absolutely kid logic. Which is adorable. You know? Like, I will give them credit for that one. That is a genuinely brilliant piece of kid logic to give, to use. That's adorable? Baxter just giggled boyishly at your response and swept his fingers idly through his bangs. I confess, as a child I came to believe that black and white had to be a part of my identity, as soon as I realized how well it coincided with my own name. It felt almost like magic in a way. Names carry power and importance. Kids love those kinds of coincidences. It's part of the mystery of youth. Magic, huh? You were reminded of something that happened earlier. Is that why you reacted when I mentioned the amazing Alexander? Because it's your middle name?
You're good.
Ah, well spotted. That's correct again. You could say I wish to be an amazing Alexander in my own right. I've always been fond of my full name. It's a very nice name. Thank you. I'm delighted we are in agreement. At any rate, I'm sure you can understand at last why I'm so attached to it, and to my favorite colors. You certainly did. Who knew that such a simple question would lead to such a strange and unexpected answer? In the past few minutes, you'd ended up learning much more than you bargained for about the hidden depths of Baxter Alexander Ward. In what felt like no time at all, you arrived at the final frame of the match. You glanced up at the scoreboard. The points had been neck and neck all game, and even in that final moment it could still go either way. You went first and would end first, and lucked into a spare on the last frame. Nice! You got an extra turn for that. With that, it was officially your final chance to take the lead. A strike here would put you out of Baxter's reach. You remained calm and shot your shot. The ball made smashing contact with the set. They toppled like dominoes being hit by a bat. A corner pin wobbled, holding out on a total collapse. And ultimately, it fell. You hit a strike! Your victory was all but secured. Permanent plug up in his hoo-ha. You get used to it. Though the odds were against him, Baxter gave it his best attempt. He got his own bonus round, that ended in yet another spare. He hummed in satisfaction, defeated but proud of his own performance. Then Baxter came over and offered you his hand to shake, the very model of sporting behavior. You took it. He'd fought hard until the end. Baxter grasped your hand firmly, and the two of you shook. He grinned.
Thanks.
Thank you for the game, Jamie. I had a lot of fun. I tried my best, but you got the better of me in the end. Congratulations. You did great for your first try.
That's sweet.
You're too kind. It really seemed as though he was happy to have played at all. Never mind that he didn't win. The joy of a new experience was what mattered to Baxter in the end. The game reaching its conclusion, you wandered over to the main counter to return your rental shoes. Your sightseeing bowling adventure was finished. As you left the building, Baxter was quiet. He must have had something on his mind. He lifted his face to the twilight sky, then met your eyes. Well, we've had our fun, and the day is getting short on time. I suppose we could return to the neighborhood now? That was a question, not a statement. Baxter touched his chin in contemplation. He hadn't struck you as altogether thrilled by the idea, and coincidentally said that exact thing out loud.
To be honest,
To tell the truth, I'd be disappointed to go home. Would it be asking too much for this to last a little while longer? I'm not sure about you, but after the thrill of our bowling match, I've become rather hungry. Could I treat you to dinner? Or at least we could attend a meal together. Now that Baxter had mentioned it, you realized your stomach was totally empty. You'd been out and about for hours. Sure, I could eat something. What childhood experiences are my V-necks based? I didn't buy these. These were somebody just sent me these. Somebody sent me these in the mail. The prospect of having more opportunity to hang out lightened Baxter's already chipper mood. That's excellent. He furrowed his brow in thought, tapping a forefinger to his cheek. Now, where to go? I noted there was food of a sort at the bowling alley itself, but I can't say that would be my preference. I'd hope to bring you somewhere nice. Ideally a place you know already that you like. We've had enough new experiences for one day, I believe. Brand new, Anunnaki. They were new. I'm not certain there's anywhere around here that could fit the bill. He lapsed into thoughtful silence, at a loss for the best course of action. He was in need of suggestions. That was possible. Surely there was somewhere near Sunset Bird that would work. You discounted the two main restaurants in the town that your family normally ate at. Baxter had already ruled out the bowling alley. Something fancier was required for a man like him. Fancy. Wait, that reminded you of something. Lazy afternoon, sitting with your moms on a paved stone patio, watching your sister play golf over sprawling green hills. Of course. You didn't know why you hadn't thought of it before. How about the Cypress? My parents are members of this country club not too far from here. They have a restaurant, and I think it'd be perfect for you. Baxter looked blankly at you for a few seconds, blinking slowly. Then he opened his mouth in an abrupt interjection.
What?
Wait a moment. You mean to say that your family has a membership for the Cypress? The country club? Yeah, I just said that. He barked a sudden laugh. That's incredible. So do I. Or rather, my parents do. His words took a few seconds to register, and then it hit you. Baxter had a Cypress membership? He wasn't even from California. Your surprise must have been evident from the expression on your face, because Baxter quickly continued with his explanation. There are a number of branches of the same club in some of the neighboring states. One Cypress is only a couple hours from where I grew up. The local dance circuit back home frequently used it as a venue for their events. California is their home state. However, it's still quite a coincidence our parents have that membership in common. Yeah, it is.
Perfect.
But with that connection between us made, I must agree that it would be the ideal place to dine for the evening. I like him, Scapegoat. I like Baxter. He's charming. Great. You agreed with your own idea even more. The serendipity at the moment hard to believe. You were getting used to that kind of thing with Baxter. Strange luck and happy coincidences seemed to follow him around more than most people. Breadsticks to go. Having settled on a place to eat, Baxter led you to his car with a spring in his step. The prospect of a jaunt to the Cypress obviously delighted him. You sped towards the general direction of Sunset Bird in the midst of its namesake period of day. The faint wisps of cloud overhead were painted a pale orange. I do like him, Scapegoat. I find him charming. When you pulled up to the country club, the sun was hanging behind the trees which lined the golf courses. You were led out to the recognizable dining area right away by a host, where a table for two was nestled in a quiet corner. He passed you menus and excused himself. A woman in a handsome waistcoat and jacket was beginning to light candles for the coming night. She paused that to attend to the new guests. Good evening. I'll get you water immediately. Is there anything else I can bring? Good evening to you. One moment. Jamie, I'm familiar with her offerings. Would you like to order now? Yes, please. You'd mentally gone over what you wanted on the drive. Baxter smiled sweetly at the waitress, who readied a notepad to take your orders. It got sorted shortly, and she took her leave. She too took her leave. After that, there was nothing to do but make yourselves comfortable. Felt nice to have some time to relax. You reclined in your chair, stretching at your legs, and idly peered around. You'd come at a good time. It was the middle of the week, and earlier in the evening than many people would go out for dinner. As it was, you had the entire place to yourselves. Baxter shifted into his seat, the wicker creaking quietly. He rested an arm casually over the back of it. A soft sigh broke the comfortable silence. It's a pity it's so quiet. I'd have loved for there to be some music. He flashed you a lopsided grin. Or dancing, even. That's asking for too much, I know. Listening while I fall asleep, I hope I dream about me in cartoon. Hope so, Capone. However, when I visited the Cypress, either here or home, it's livelier than this. Such a shame, but I suppose they can't have a soiree every night. You were nodding along to what Baxter was saying until something about this last part caught your attention. Here or at home? Hold on. You've been to this specific club before?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. It was only the once, though. About 5 years ago, I believe. You remember I mentioned that the dance circuit used to meet at the Cypress? That's partially thanks to my parents. But, regardless of why, the group had friendly relations with the company. So, when we were traveling to other locations for competitions, It was a tradition to host events at other branches of the same club. While we were here, it was only a formal meal, unfortunately. We were meant to rest between dances, rather than spend the evening on the floor. It was a dull affair, as you might imagine, although I did manage to get some fun out of it. It so happened that another event had been booked for the same day, a true celebration. They had live music, and the space was open for couples to dance. How lucky for me. I snuck out of the dinner and came over to where the real party was. It was the night of the Cypress's summer soiree. Perhaps you know about all that as a fellow member. No way. No way! I was at that party too! You were pretty sure you remembered right. Your moms had made a big deal out of it, calling it your first step in becoming more of a grown-up. You'd definitely been 13 at the time. It had to be the same party Baxter was talking about. There wasn't any other explanation. Baxter's eyes were very wide as he stumbled to explain this to him. I don't believe it. So we could have met all those years ago? You nodded slowly, thunderstruck. You really might have. Baxter brought a hand to his mouth, his lips pursed in a thin line. Side note for those who may remember the summer soiree thing that I went to, that I took. It's like my sort of official first date with Cove. If you choose not to bring Cove with you to that event, then you do meet Baxter there. That's so arbitrary. So unfortunate. Like fate was toying with us somehow. He clicked his teeth. The fact that it obviously sat so wrong with him was almost as much a surprise as the revelation itself. It wasn't often that Baxter wore anything other than a selection of smiles. As if hearing your thoughts, he quickly rearranged his features into something less morose.
Fun.
Well, now, I suppose there's little point crying over spilt milk. These kinds of coincidences are something special. It would be inconsiderate to complain that it didn't quite pan out perfectly. We might not have spoken, but who knows? Our eyes may have met, or we could have caught a glimpse from a distance. And even if not, I am glad we had been in such proximity. He gave you a proper smile, and you did your best to return it in kind. Baxter was right. There was no point in regretting that things might have been different. Trying to keep the conversation lighthearted, you found yourself recounting the stories of Liz's golfing trips here. Your sister golfs? That's surprising. I'm not sure why it's surprising, but it is. Yeah, when we were little, she used to talk about competing at the Olympics, but maybe it's a good thing she gave up on that idea in the end. She was always shaking dirt from the sand traps out of her shoes when we got home. Baxter laughed at that, the sound ringing clear as a bell over the empty patio, the grass, and the water, as the sun's dying light caught them all. You'd missed this place. It had been too long since your last visit. Excuse me. Your train of thought was interrupted by the sound of the waitress arriving with your food. 2 steaming plates were placed in front of you, and then you were alone again. Neither you nor Baxter wasted any time tucking in. The food was as good as you remembered, and by all accounts Baxter was content with his choice too. But you didn't necessarily have to eat in perfect silence. You searched for a topic of conversation. I mean, this feels like a kind of a... I don't know, this question just feels kind of rude to ask. You're single, right? He shrugged casually, his gaze wandering. I'm unattached. That shouldn't be news to you, though. That was true enough. Ever since his first introduction to Cove and you when he arrived in Sunset Bird, Baxter had been open about the fact that he was absolutely, extremely available. Have you ever dated before? He answered you without missing a beat. I have. Nothing long-term, you understand. I haven't suffered any tremendous heartache as of yet. Being single comes very naturally to me. And besides, I don't think I'm even old enough for anything to have truly qualified as long-term.
Well.
Unattached. But I've certainly had some experience, let's put it that way. I've only ever dated Cove. He's very important to me. Baxter gave you a warm look. And I hope with all my heart that you will never have to find another. I can see that what you have is something very special. If fate means anything in this world, you two are meant to last. Having said his piece, his expression dimmed, and his eyes wandered lazily away. So, who was your first crush? You knew that this question was coming out of the blue, but you were curious, and since you were on the topic of romance anyway, if not now, then when? He scratched his cheek thoughtfully, trying to recall a memory. A very interesting question. It can be hard to put an exact date and time to emotions. I'd say that I was a bit of a late bloomer. I didn't develop a soft spot for anyone until I was around 12. Some people I knew had their first crush years before that. But there was another kid who had attained the same dance hall that I did. Though, we practiced totally different disciplines. I was naturally there for ballroom. They were a ballet dancer. Hardly the most inspiring twist on the star-crossed lovers trope, I admit. And that was the end of his story, as sparse as it was. Anyway, that's enough about me. Your turn, Jamie.
What do you think?
I know we spoke about dating before, but who did you first feel a connection with? Was there anyone? Honestly, it was a celebrity. Yes, it was hopeless, you get it. But the you of the past couldn't help themselves. Baxter smiled wistfully and nodded. I don't blame you. The stars in the sky are trying to be seen in many cases. Thank you for telling me. You didn't need any more details on
You're
that.
welcome.
Don't mention it. You were most welcome, Jamie. It was a fulfilling discussion, all told. I feel like we know each other a lot better now, wouldn't you say? You passed the rest of the meal with idle chatter, exchanging anecdotes and silly stories. Everything was easier with some good food at hand. Eventually, dinner ended, the dishes were cleared, and the bill sent for. One of the things you discussed was who'd pay. I kind of like this idea. You pay for his and he'd pay for yours? That just seems like kind of a cute way of doing it. You pay for his and he'd pay for yours. It was a little more fun that way. Once the bill came and went, Baxter cleared his throat and made to stand. Shall we? You checked around for your belongings and nodded. Yeah, let's go home. Wonderful. You headed through the club and out into the parking lot. Night was beginning to fall in earnest. The rich person? I know, but... As you settled into the car, you found yourself gazing back at the cypress. In your head, you thanked it for so many years of fine food and happy memories. It had been a good day. A lifetime of good days. The last of the daylight was long gone by the time you finally returned to your neighborhood. Baxter had gone more slowly than when he'd left, content to enjoy the drive. Almost as if he was trying to delay the end of your sightseeing trip for a little while longer. Baxter parked and killed the engine, then he shifted in the driver's seat, his hand still on the wheel, to face you. I've really appreciated your company today, Jamie. I have to confess, I had an itinerary planned in the event that you declined my invitation. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want you to feel obligated to humor me so I'm not lonely. I manage perfectly well. But in the end, I'm grateful it didn't come to that. It was infinitely preferable having the chance to spend a few hours in your company.
Thank you.
I don't know if you feel the same, or if you did indeed tag along as a favor to me. Either way, thank you. Baxter finished his brief speech and released the wheel. He made as if to get out of the car without waiting for a response. I appreciated the chance to get to know you. He glanced back, eyes bright. Baxter was awfully pleased, making no attempts to hide that fact. You realize that he'd really been asking you a question in his own roundabout way. He was hoping you'd enjoyed his being there too. It was nice you could make him happy with such a simple thing. Baxter cleared his throat and shifted in place. His pretend escape plan hadn't included taking off the seatbelt. He undid it then. Well, I won't keep you any longer. The two of you got out of the car, and Baxter lifted his hand in a cheery wave.
Good night.
Have a good night, neighbor. He spun around in the opposite direction and strolled towards his condo. You called out to his retreating back. Good night. He waved again over his shoulder in response. You watched until he'd made it inside. And with that, your day with Baxter came to an end. Now it was your turn to go home. It was a strange feeling to be back home after such an eventful afternoon. So much happened in the space of a few short hours. Of course, where you were right then couldn't be described as without excitement. You were greeted almost immediately by footsteps approaching from the hallway. Sweetie, you're back. I heard the door open. Mom's laugh rang out from behind her. Out of the pan and into the fire.
No, no, no.
Whoa there! No need to jump on Jamie without giving them the chance to take their shoes off. I like to give Mom sort of like this, like a North Dakota accent. Oh yeah. Like that cop from Fargo, like that lady cop from Fargo. That's sort of how I imagine Mom sounding. For all we know, it's been a very informative and tiring day. Ma came up in front of you, and Mom appeared over her shoulder. You could see the smirk on Mom's face to go along with the pointed implications in her choice of words. Dakota. Exactly. North Dakota. For all that Mom appeared to be tempering Ma's enthusiasm, they were both guilty of speculating what you were up to all day, and now it was their chance to finally find out. While her wife rested a hand to her shoulder, Ma beamed angelically, the picture of innocence. She was the last person to bowl someone over the minute they got home. Honest. So I imagine Canadians. I mean, sorta, eh? I mean, some of us do kinda sound like that, eh? Whenever we go get the donuts from Tim Hortons, eh? Albertans? Bob and Doug McKenzie are who I always think of, the McKenzie brothers. That is the quintessential Canadian accent right there. How do I pronounce sorry? I say sorry. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that, eh? I'm sorry about that, eh?
Huh?
Yeah. What's going on exactly? Your sister's voice drifted over from the couch. Liz had been sitting watching TV, but spun around to see what the commotion was about, her show forgotten. The gang was all there, and in only a matter of seconds. So, how did it go? Did you have a nice time with our new neighbor? Oh, so that's where you've been all afternoon. Out with a gentleman caller? How charming. Your sister leaned over the back of the couch with a biting grin on her face. She could have given Baxter a run for his money. Yes, Jamie was getting to know Mr. Ward. The rest of us would like to know him as well. I had a lot of fun. Ma clapped her hands together, delighted.
Wonderful.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you had a good time. It's good to know that Baxter knows how to treat our Jamie right.
Aha.
Yes, very good. We won't have to break his door down. The folks he's renting from wouldn't have appreciated that. Pamela! Mom simply cackled. Ma turned to you, looking apologetic. She had given up on her wife doing so.
There, there.
Don't mind your mom, sweetie. You know she wouldn't really embarrass you like that. Or commit a crime? I think that would be the bigger factor in that little scenario. Maybe.
Seriously?
What? How about you tell us more about your day? Whenever you're ready. With that, the immediate attention around you dispersed, and you were free to collect your thoughts. Slowly, everyone drifted towards the kitchen counter, where they sat ready and waiting to hear the whole story. You kicked off your shoes. Ma wouldn't allow you to drag dirt in the house, even when she was trying to curry favor, and then you went over and pulled up a stool. You shared some bits and pieces from your adventure with Baxter. Your moms both nodded along, eating up each factoid you shared about your time with Baxter. Ma, in particular, was engaged and asked plenty of questions. Most black and orange cats are male, and most calico are female. I'm pretty sure I did know about that, at least the calico part. Liz played it cooler, resting her chin in her hands on the counter, but you could tell she was listening keenly. When you mentioned eating out at the Cypress, her eyes widened in recognition. As the night wore on, your moms and Liz ended up chatting amongst themselves, engrossed in the conversation to the point where you were able to slip away unnoticed. On the way upstairs to your room, you found yourself glancing back at the front door, as if to catch another glimpse of Baxter over the street. You really hoped he got what he wanted out of the sights he saw. Sunset Bird was a special place to you. If you were lucky, then maybe Baxter had come to realize that as well. You'd certainly reached more of an understanding of him, one way or another. Yet, you were positive there was much still buried beneath the surface. So much more to his character than there had appeared to be at first glance. But you didn't mind. You'd known each other for such a small part of your lives. Of course, a single outing wouldn't be enough to quantify an entire person. Most cats have fur, except the furless ones. What was special was that it might not always be that way. Currently, he was the bowling alley, shiny and new. But someday you might be as familiar with Baxter as you were with Shopping Street and the Cypress. This day was only a wonderful start. Geez, that was a long one. Alright, so we are very close to the end of the game. We got drinks, mountain, planning, and happiness. Hey, Triss and Maddie. You came in right when I'm ready to leave. Because it's been 2.5 hours that I've been playing this. 2.5 hours for that one moment. Jeez, that was a long-ass moment. Stay up late? I mean, I always do, but it's a lot of talking is the problem, Honey Bunny. It's a lot of reading and talking. My throat gets sore. Because I am not a throat goat, so... Nice seeing me live, how am I? I'm doing okay, Triss Maddie, thanks. So yeah, I am going to end the stream here. It's been fun. I've enjoyed this. It's nice to get back to this game after a month away. Month I've spent away from this game. Take calls. I don't have any calls. So, I'll be leaving. I'm sure I'll be live again tomorrow, 2:30 in the morning. So I'll see some of you there. But for now, thanks for coming. And good night, everybody.